What's going on, and welcome back to another episode of Redefining Issued Equipment. And in this video we're going to be going over a general purpose and baseline setup of the SPCS plate carrier, or also commonly known as the KDH plate carrier, for those of you that are getting issued it. Now with that, a couple intents behind this video. One is to segue into a couple of the specific duty position kit setups that we're going to do with this plate carrier. And then in addition to that, also hopefully enhance the mobility that you get out of this plate carrier by replacing the issued cummerbund and side plate pockets with the Arbor Arms Soldier Plate Carrier System Gen 1 Flex cummerbund kit. And then also finally to hopefully enhance your guys' ability to shoot, move, and communicate and medicate when it comes down to it. So with that in mind, we're going to briefly talk about the Arbor Arms cummerbund kit that you see here and the mod that you can make to the whole entire plate carrier to, one, enhance the comfort, breathability, and maneuverability of the whole entire plate carrier system, as well as add an additional 3 rows of MOLLE, so that way you can run additional mission essential and duty essential equipment on that cummerbund in conjunction with those side plate pockets. And then from there, we're going to talk the midsection gap, which is essentially the 3 to 5 inches that you're probably going to have in between the bottom of your plate carrier and the top of your belt line or gun or equipment belt that you may potentially be running, and some do's and don'ts with that. And then from there, we're going to jump back up to the top of the plate carrier, work our way all the way down to the bottom. Talk admin and the shoot piece, so that shoot, move, and communicate piece. From there, we'll transition to the cummerbund, talk comms, and then from there, we'll move to the back side of the plate carrier and that back plate bag, as well as the back plate panels, talk about a few other things, and then close a few things out with some medical pieces here on the front of the plate carrier, as well as here off to the side. So with that, when it comes to the Arbor Arms cummerbund kit that you can purchase, the full name is going to be the Arbor Arms Soldier Plate Carrier System, or SPCS, Gen 1 Flex cummerbund kit. And like I said, it's an elastic cummerbund that and a whole kit that integrates into the actual cutaway system of the plate carrier, so you still have access and use of that cutaway system, but it also comes with detachable side cummerbunds, so that way it makes donning and doffing your plate carrier much easier, and you don't really have to work as much compared to the older system with it. So with that, the cummerbund kit, it's going to cost you about $150 to $200. It is absolutely worth it. It's elastic. It will react to your body, so it makes breathing a lot easier. It makes the plate carrier as a whole a lot more breathable, so you don't feel as hot in the plate carrier system. And then in addition to that, you get either 2 to 3 strands of MOLLE on that cummerbund to be able to run all that additional equipment. And then with the elasticity, it just makes everything much more mobile, enhancing your mobility and ability to just shoot, move, and communicate in general. So with that, I would highly recommend it. There are a couple of different options. You have a 2-strand as well as a 3-strand. I would recommend running the 3-strand. It is going to give you more MOLLE, especially with some of the issued pouches that are out there. Having that additional strand of MOLLE is going to aid in setting those pouches up properly to where they are working for you and not really working against you. With a 2-strand, there's a tendency for those pouches to want to pull off of the plate carrier cummerbund, and that can be problematic, especially when you start weighing them down with side plates and all that. So I would highly recommend run the 3-band one, so that way you get the most out of it. With that midsection gap, is essentially the 3 to 5 inches that you have in between the bottom of your plate carrier plate bags and the top of that belt line. You want to keep that midsection gap area clean and clear of any equipment, because what will happen is if you have equipment protruding past the top of that gun belt line or below the bottom of the plate carrier line, that equipment will catch on each other, and it just creates a lot of snag hazards. It limits mobility, and it just really becomes problematic for the individual shooter when it comes down to it. So with that, keep that in mind. Don't let equipment pass the bottom of the plate carrier line or the top of the gun belt or equipment belt line There are ways that you can offset mags and all of that stuff with Safariland and Kydex holsters and all of that stuff. Pistol mag holsters is and carriers are kind of the exception. They're gonna protrude beyond that line, but everything else you can typically keep below that top of the belt line, and then it works more for you rather than against you. So just keep those things in mind when it comes to setting up your kit. It will help you out in the long run and make your life much more pleasant when you're running and gunning and having to go through that whole shoot, move, communicate, and medicate piece. But with that, moving back up to the top of the plate carrier, we have our admin section, which is going to be the top here. I would recommend running a headlamp of sorts up at the top here. Key takeaway with this is keep it small and streamlined. That way it doesn't create snag hazards when you're running your gun from shoulder to shoulder and doing those transitions. And then in addition with that, with these headlamps, or really any light in general, is have a white light capability, a red light capability, and a blue light capability. Those three colors right there are going to facilitate administrative stuff as far as white light goes, and then red is going to be more of your noise and light discipline where you're in a tactical environment, and then blue is also that tactical environment. But what that blue is going to do is it's going to highlight blood, so that way when you're working on a casualty, you can find and isolate that wound, treat that bleed, and stop that bleed as fast as possible. And what that blue light does is it essentially turns that blood from a red color to a black color, and then the skin kind of turns more of a white color, so it contrasts very well to be able to quickly identify and stop those bleeds. With that, a couple of companies, Petzl is a really good one. I've had this one, I'm really happy with it when it comes down to it, but Princeton Tech, Black Diamond, and Streamlight are also really good options as far as headlamps go. Next, we have admin pouches. I'm personally not a big admin chest pouch person or a fan of them, but if you want to run a admin pouch on the front of your plate carrier, especially the soldier plate carrier system, I would recommend running something that is no larger than 2 moly strands, because if you go any larger than that, it can interfere with tac mags and emergency reloads as well as bolt lock reloads. If you run anything bigger than a 2 moly strand admin pouch like this one from First Spear, it can become very problematic for you. So just keep that in mind. But just to give you a quick idea, this is the First Spear GRG Organizer admin pouch. It opens up kind of like a little portfolio or rollout. You have space for pens, pencils, map markers, all that, as well as a small little pocket that's expandable for other items, and then you have your clear pocket for maps, GRGs, and other mission essential stuff that you got to reference. So I would recommend this or anything similar to this as far as admin pouches go. With that, when you set all of this up, I would recommend headlamp underneath your cutaway tab or pull tab, and then your admin pouch is just going to sit just underneath that, and then your magazines will push off of that, so that way those magazines can easily be pulled and conduct those tac mags, emergency, or bolt lock reloads. In addition to that, just behind the magazines, you can see there we have 4 cleaning rod sections. I would recommend that no matter what position you're in, you have cleaning rod sections, so that way if your gun goes down, you have the ability to get that gun back into the fight as fast as possible. The key thing with those cleaning rod sections is to clear ruptured casings that get stuck in the chamber, as well as sheared casings where the bottom of the casing shears off, and then you have to go in with an extractor tool, extract that round out or that casing out, and then you can get your gun back into the fight pretty quickly from there. So I would recommend having that on your kit, so that way you can deal with those malfunctions if and when they happen. I've had them happen in the past in training environments without fail. So almost every training iteration that I've done, somebody always has that issue, and then I know plenty of stories of guys having it happen to them downrange, and I've seen it happen once or twice as well. So just keep that in mind when it comes down to it. From there, that kind of closes out that admin piece. So moving on to the shoot piece of the kit setup, we have the Tac Taylor Fight Light Triple Mag here on the back, and then we have a Blue Force Gear 10-speed triple mag panel on the front. So what this does is it facilitates being able to run 6 mags on the front of your plate carrier, but it also facilitates being able to run other equipment that you may need that's mission essential, whether it be compasses, GPSs, initiating systems, or whatever other special equipment you can think of. You have the ability to run that, and then from there it's just a matter of offsetting those magazines to another location on your body. A lot of guys run them on their gun belt, so you could have 3 on the front of your plate carrier, 1 to 2 on your gun belt, maybe 1 to 2 on your back plate bag somewhere, whether it's top loaded or bottom loaded, it doesn't matter. And then in addition to that, they got 1 in the gun. So roughly you're going to have about 7 mags, if not more, depending on what's going on. So with that, that's the recommendation that I usually give all the conventional guys that are running this plate carrier in specific. 3 up front, have the Blue Force gear for additional equipment. If you need to run mags, you can, but try and offload those mags and put them somewhere else. Typically I see 1 here on either side of the cummerbund, and that kind of fits the bill as far as required load when it comes to that. So with that, if you're going to run one of these Blue Force gear pouches, I would recommend running the newer version, the stackable version. It has MOLLE on the front here, so you can add additional equipment if you need to. And then in addition to that, you have the little pull tabs, so putting equipment in and taking it out is a much easier process than dealing with just these streamlined ones up here at the top. But overall, this setup really goes a long way when it comes to streamlining the kit, keeping a lower profile, especially when you're trying to get down below some cover and concealment. Having 3 mags up front definitely does a huge favor for the individual. I've seen plenty of guys, conventional and soft, they have double stacked mags, and it ends up pushing their torso up just enough to where they're exposed behind cover and concealment, and it can become super problematic and a danger to the individual. So there's something to keep in mind when it comes to that piece, and setting up your mags to answer that shoot question for kit setup. Moving on though, we have comms. So the way that I have comms set up on this, I have my push to talk hair tied and hitched just to the MOLLE right there. All it is setting up a hair tie through the loops like you can see here. So you'll have 1 loop protruding out the top, 1 loop protruding out the bottom, and then you just pass your push to talk or trucker mic or telephone mic through that to help retain it and keep it in place. And then in addition to that, you're also running a hair tie down here at the bottom of the plate carrier to retain that cable, and it's 1 hair tie going through 2 MOLLE sections, and that just keeps that cable nice and tight to the kit, so that way it doesn't become a snag hazard on your weapon systems and or just on the environment and the equipment that you may be running in and around, so that way it doesn't get snagged and then cut your comms completely out of the equation. And then the cool thing too with this cummerbund is it also helps facilitate running any excess cable and stowing that neatly out of the way, so that doesn't become a snag hazard as well. And it's just simply adding some hair ties to the little loop portions at the top and the bottom, and then retaining that extra cabling for your push to talks. So with that, tubes is right there, and that's your little disconnect real quick. And then on the interior of the cummerbund, I always like to run a radio pouch right here. You can also run it on the exterior. It's completely up to you, whatever is most comfortable. But having a radio pouch, no matter what position you're in, is going to be important, especially with all the stuff going on in the world right now. It's one of those things where it kind of falls into that old adage, learn the job of 2 guys above you and teach your job to the guy below you. So that way, no matter what happens, you can continue to fight, you can complete the mission and all that, and you can maintain communication throughout that entire mission or operation. So just keep that in mind. I know for the infantry and for some of the lower enlisted positions, they may not need it, but I would recommend, even if you don't need it, it's better to have it and not need it than need it and not have it. So I'll just leave that at that for right now. But moving on to the back side of the cummerbund, kind of continuing with comms, hair tying your cables to the interior or to the exterior of your cummerbund is going to help protect those cables and prevent them from being a snag hazard and potentially getting cut, frayed, or destroyed. So run those on there so that way they're not an issue. And then when it comes to the backs of plate carriers and all of that, you have a couple of options here. You can run pouches in all of your kit, just direct MOLLE to the back plate bag of this plate carrier, or what you can do is you can purchase these Cry Precision zip-on panel add-on sections or zippers, and that will facilitate being able to run array of different zipper panels. You can purchase the more expensive Cry Precision panels, or if you want to save a little bit of money, I know a lot of guys in soft right now that are running the Ido Gear zipper panels, and they've had tremendous success with them in training and in operations. So that is an option that you can also run as far as setting up your back plate bag and zipper panels and all that to where you can stow equipment that you may need. In addition to that, finaling out all of our comm stuff, you can see the cabling that's gone all the way up to this antenna. So we just run that cable or antenna relocation cable to the antenna, and then that cable or that antenna comes up and out the top of the plate carrier. With that, you don't need any special pouches to be able to retain your antenna. It's just a matter of taking hair ties and hair tying that antenna in place so that way it doesn't come out. And all you really have to do, kind of like the cable, is you have a loop section at the top, a loop section at the bottom, and then you just rotate this over itself and then pass it over like so, and that will help retain everything and keep things nice and tight. So very easy setup as far as antenna systems go, and you can run a short whip, long whip, body whip. It's completely up to you. I kind of prefer running short whips for most everything at this point, just because the body whips, sometimes they work, sometimes they don't. It just depends on the body whip that you get. And then if you need to upgrade to a full body whip or a fully extendable antenna, you have the ability to do that long whip setup. So with that, you have a ton of additional space here on the interior side to run any special equipment. If you have breeching tools or manual breeching tools, you can run those Tier Tactical manual breeching tool pouches here on the interior. Run those, you'll be good to go with that. Or if there's any other equipment that you may want to run, maybe hydration, you could run that interior as well here and protect that bladder or water source that you have. And then with these zipper panels, most of them come with an array of different configurations and pockets and all of that. You can run water inside here. It's definitely an option. I recommend if you do that, have like a little Velcro loop thing to hold that bladder up, and that way it doesn't fall down into the bottom of your zipper panel. And then this zipper panel, the Molly ones specifically, are essentially choose your own adventure, set up the pouches exactly the way that you want, specific to your mission, the special equipment that you need for that mission and or your operational environment, and then any duty specific equipment that you may need. You can run all of that here on the back panel as well. So with that, when it comes to setting all this stuff up, definitely utilize any tabs that you see like here to help retain that panel to the plate carrier. That way it doesn't pull off of the plate carrier and kind of become a pain in the butt. But like I said, it's a really nice thing to have, and if you're looking to ball on a budget, the Ido Gear ones are a really good idea. That way you're only paying 40-50 bucks for a Molly panel versus 150 from Cry, and then I would still purchase the zippers, the zipper add-ons from Cry, because they're only about 25 bucks when it comes down to it. So with that, one final thing for the cummerbund here on the right side of the plate carrier. I know a lot of guys typically run small general purpose pouches for night vision or other special equipment that they may need. By all means, great options out there from Cry Precision, Tier Tactical. Explosive Ordnance Gear is another good one for like horizontal and small general purpose pouches. Just the biggest thing with that is keep them small and compact. Anything large and big is going to become kind of an impediment. It can limit mobility, especially if you start putting a lot of weight in them. These are going to stretch out too much, and then your kit isn't going to fit properly when it comes down to it. So just keep that stuff in mind if you're going to add additional general purpose pouches to that cummerbund on the right and left hand side of that cummerbund. And then finally, when it comes to med, so this is becoming more of a thing across all of the military from what I've noticed, especially the guys that I've worked with on the conventional and soft side. A lot of guys are running 20 to 30 feet of tubular nylon for different harnesses as well as improvised litters. A great piece of kit to always have on you, especially if you're running panels like this. It can neatly be stowed and not become a snag hazard if you stow it inside of a zipper panel, and then when you need it, you pull it out and you're good to go. Easiest way of setting these guys up is you'll roll your entire tubular nylon, 20 to 30 feet, hair tie it so that way it's retained. You can use rubber bands, it really doesn't matter, but set it up to where it's retained and you don't have it trying to fall apart on you. And then take some longer hair ties, run them through the MOLLE on the back of your plate carrier. If you're running the zipper panel, run them also through the zipper panels. It will just help create a more secure contact point. And then you're just going in and retaining the tubular nylon with that long hair tie. So you'll just double over, especially at the top and at the bottom, and then you will be good to go with that tubular nylon, and it just sits in place until you need it. So with that kind of segues into the medical piece because of what that guy can do as far as improvised litters and or drag lines. One other thing, just real quick, you can also add a carabiner somewhere back here or tie it off to the actual tubular nylon, and you can use that to tie into somebody's plate carrier and then drag them out of a bad situation. So you have kind of two medical uses for that tubular nylon right there, drag lines and improvised litters. And then from there, we got med kits. So I know a lot of conventional units will set their med kit up right here on the left-hand side of their body armor. It works. Definitely not the greatest in my opinion, but it is an option. Kind of a better option when it comes down to it is utilizing something like this Faro Concepts Roll One, and hanging it from your belt. That way if you have to ditch your kit, you still have your med kit on you. And then there are a handful of other different med pouches and concepts and ideas that either hang from your pouch or MOLLE, or hang from your belt or MOLLE to the belt itself, and you can utilize that as your med kit. The biggest thing with these med kits is set them up to where they're ambidextrous. That way you can pull them out from the left and or the right, and you can employ them on your own as a self-aid means of medical care. And then once your buddy can get to you, care under fire wise, then you can get into that whole self-aid, buddy aid progression all the way up until the highest level of care that you can get to. So with that, some things that I've seen with this plate carrier, guys will take Faro Concept Roll Ones or similar dangler pouches, and they will Velcro them either to the soft panel Velcro pouch. So they'll open this up on either the front or the back of the plate carrier, and they'll hang that pouch, and then that med kit will either hang in the front and or on the back of the body armor if you have to run it on your plate carrier. So just think about it, be methodical, use some common sense when it comes to setting up that body armor, so that way, and that med kit with the body armor, so that way it works for you and not against you, because when you're running into that medical situation, it can be catastrophic if you don't set yourself up for success prior to all of that. So keep that in mind. Hanging pouches are really good. MOLLE pouches work. It just depends on where you're setting them up. And then last but not least, we have tourniquets. So when it comes to tourniquets, there's a lot of different pouches and ways that you can set up your tourniquets on your kit. I've seen guys run tourniquets on the left and the right hand side of their MOLLE panels from their magazines. I myself usually run them below my magazines, one on the bottom of my plate carrier and then one on my gun belt, so that way I have central access to both of those tourniquets to be able to employ them rapidly, especially for those leg wounds, and getting those things out as fast as possible, controlling that bleed, and moving to behind cover and concealment, and then hopefully from that self-aid it progresses into buddy aid and then to that next level of care. So with that, closing comments on the med stuff, keep them centralized so that way they're ambidextrous and you can rapidly employ that stuff through that whole medical progression. So with that, I don't really have anything else to add to this. Again, just keep in mind that the intent behind this video is specifically to segue into the specific duty position equipment setups that we're going to have on the SPCS plate carrier, and then from there, the intent really behind this is just to hopefully enhance or help you make the determination on what you want to purchase to enhance your mobility with this plate carrier system, and then furthermore enhance your ability to shoot, move, communicate, and medicate when it comes down to it, and really just protecting the country and the citizens of the United States. So with that, if you have any questions, please feel free, leave a comment. We will help you out in any way that we can. And with that, like, share, and subscribe, and we'll see you next time.